AI minds, quantum leaps. Cut the noise, dive deep. Truth unlocked. Dr. Mike on the mic. Tech Unfiltered is on the clock. Now it's time for the show.
A power line failed in Northern Virginia, and within about 30 seconds, more than 3 gigawatts of data center demand disappeared from the regional power grid. The system recovered, and there was no regional blackout. But the event revealed something worth understanding. When many large facilities respond to the same problem in the same way, a sensible local decision can become a regional problem. Welcome to Tech Unfiltered with Dr. Mike. I want to explain what happened, why it matters, and what could make the system more dependable. I'll keep the facts separate from my conclusions. The event happened on Wednesday morning, July 22nd, 2026. A transmission line in Northern Virginia went out of service. This region has the largest concentration of data centers in the world. Dominion Energy said protection systems at several data centers responded by disconnecting from the regional grid and switching to backup power. The regional grid operator, known as PJM, serves about 67 million people from Washington toward Chicago. Reuters reported that more than 3 gigawatts of demand went offline. That was about 3% of the electricity being used at that moment. Reuters also reported that the disturbance changed the grid's frequency, but did not harm PJM's overall reliability. There was no regional blackout and the system stabilized. That distinction matters. This was a serious operating event, but it was not a disaster. People could still notice it. Ting Labs, a company with about 1.4 million plug-in electrical sensors, detected voltage changes along the eastern United States and as far west as Chicago. Some customers in Northern Virginia reported flickering lights and unusual sounds from air conditioners and refrigerators. Those sounds were evidence of a voltage disturbance. They were not proof that the appliances were damaged. TechCrunch studied PJM's operating data and reconstructed the sequence. It found that about 3.1 gigawatts of data center demand disappeared in roughly 30 seconds, followed by additional reductions. At the worst point, the grid had about 3.49 gigawatts more supply than demand. The system took roughly 11 minutes to settle. Those figures come from TechCrunch's analysis, not a final PJM report. The power grid must keep supply and demand closely matched from moment to moment. A fault on a transmission line can cause a short voltage drop. Data centers contain costly computers and cooling equipment, so their safety systems respond quickly. If voltage moves outside a safe range, a facility may switch to batteries or generators. For one data center, that is a reasonable safety decision. The difficulty appears when many nearby facilities use similar equipment and similar settings. If they all leave the grid at nearly the same time, the grid suddenly has power that was being produced for customers who are no longer drawing it. Think of someone balancing a tray. Take one object off, and the tray may wobble. Take several heavy objects off together, and the movement is much larger. This only illustrates the sudden change in balance. It is not a literal model of electricity. Voltage and frequency describe different parts of grid behavior. They are related, but not identical. The data centers did not send extra electricity into homes. Their shared response created a regional mismatch between supply and demand and a change in power quality. Grid controls then restored the balance. This was not an AI system deciding to abandon the grid. Ordinary electrical safety equipment did what it was designed to do. AI matters because it is helping drive electricity demand that is both very large and concentrated in a few places. The lesson is about coordination. Each facility protected itself correctly, but the combined result created a second problem for the wider system. There is evidence that this issue is growing. TechCrunch reported that the July event was about twice the size of a similar event in 2024. In that earlier case, roughly 60 data centers left the grid at almost the same time, removing about 1.5 gigawatts of demand. An energy research estimate cited by TechCrunch said data centers accounted for about 6% of PJM's demand in 2024 and could reach 24% by 2040. That future number is a projection, not a certainty. A Harvard energy report said United States data center electricity use rose from under 2% of national demand in 2018 to about 4.4% in 2023. Estimates for 2028 range from roughly 7 to 12%. A single large AI data center can use more than a gigawatt or 1 billion watts. Several often gather in the same region because they need abundant power and fast network connections. The report also described growing pressure on how the grid is planned and funded. Virginia may need billions of dollars in high voltage upgrades and new power production. Not all of that comes from AI. Retiring plants, population growth, vehicles, and heating also matter. Even so, data centers are large enough to shape the plans and the argument over who pays. There are 4 practical ways to reduce the operating risk. First, large facilities can coordinate when they disconnect and reconnect. An official with Ontario's grid operator told TechCrunch that neighboring sites should act in sequence instead of moving all at once. The goal is not to ignore unsafe voltage. It is to keep identical settings from turning a local fault into a sudden change of several billion watts. The second approach is to help data centers stay connected through short disturbances. TechCrunch described batteries and power control equipment that could protect an entire campus while it remains a steady customer of the grid. The company behind the plan said it was installing 3 gigawatts across 4 campuses. That is a company statement about planned work, not proof of performance during an event like this one. Third, grid operators can create clearer rules. A Harvard review of changes in Texas described ways to study the loss of a very large customer, require protective steps, connect projects in stages, and temporarily reduce large loads during an emergency. Texas is also considering rules that would keep large customers connected during manageable disturbances. Fourth, connection rules can assign costs and responsibilities more clearly. In June, federal energy regulators directed 6 regional grid operators to explain or revise their rules for very large customers. The goal is faster connections without weaker reliability or unfair costs for other electric customers. State governments continue to set retail prices and other local requirements. Here is my conclusion. People may notice changes in power quality at home. They may face greater reliability risks if concentrated demand grows without coordination. And they may help pay for new transmission lines and power plants through their electric bills. The cloud, as it turns out, has circuit breakers. Those breakers are now important to everyone connected to the same grid. A facility that uses as much electricity as a city should accept responsibilities on the same scale. It should behave predictably during faults, coordinate with nearby facilities, share useful operating information, help pay for dedicated upgrades, and offer flexibility when the grid is under stress. This event does not prove that a blackout is coming. It shows us a scaling problem while there is still time to address it. When a new data center campus is proposed, the useful questions are straightforward. Can it remain connected through a short disturbance? Can it reduce or move some computing work during an emergency? Who will pay for the infrastructure built around it? Are nearby facilities coordinating their protection systems? And who will independently verify the performance claims? Those questions support innovation while respecting the physical system that makes it possible. I'll see you in the next episode.